We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC and Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor.
Second time's a charm. We're going to try to do it right this time. It's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Thrift, Barringer, Rich Holdridge. Richard, hopefully your voice and your face are moving and sounding at the same time. Let's try it out.
Really? You had to go there, Thrift? No, I had technical difficulties with an older computer. Probably the audio and the video were not syncing up. How am I sounding right now?
I think you're sounding great. Looking forward to talking with you. And we are smiling because guess what? We're presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Richard, what do we like to say?
Get ready to smile.
And we are smiling also because the Brookstone Cougars just won a state championship. Richard, first time in school history. Big time win for Coach Greg Mathis. Unbelievable playoff run, 6-0. Pretty much every game was in hand. I don't think they had one close game. Offense was incredible, led by Taft Middleton. I can't think of the pitcher, Richard. You know what I'm talking about.
Kim.
Yeah, Chungwoo Kim. He was phenomenal and just an incredible playoff run and season for the Brookstone Cougars. They're going to definitely finish in our top 3 when we drop our final baseball ratings tomorrow. So looking forward to that. We got special guest, head baseball coach of the Calvary Christian Knights, joining us here in just a moment. And we got some hot takes. Richard, I love the NBA, but I don't know a damn thing, it seems like. I said last week,
I know you do.
The Nuggets won. And the Nuggets are going to 3 straight. The Nuggets are going to win the series, and they're going to win back-to-back NBA championships. And guess what? Ant-Man, Jaden McDaniels, Karl-Anthony Towns, and this incredible young, but I'm talking about full of dogs, Minnesota Timberwolves roster is going to the conference finals. And I think out of the 4 teams left, and that includes a 64-win Boston team, they're the favorite to win it all. We're going to talk about that. I got some hot takes. Who are we going to have to win? We also are going to have Steve Holman, the voice of the Hawks. He's going to talk NBA, Hawks, and more with us tomorrow. And we'll have on newly state champion, Brookstone's Greg Mathis. So make sure to tune in to tomorrow's show. We're going to do 2 things this week, tonight's show and tomorrow's. So looking forward to that. Richard, everything else going good in your world? And how much did you enjoy last week going to I guess you didn't get to be a part of the GIAA broadcast because it rained out, and it didn't want us to be great, Richard. We were going to be great.
Well, you got to give me the A for effort. I did drive to historic Luther Williams Field to call that Brookstone First Presbyterian game with you on Friday, game 2. We were hoping that they would clinch it on Friday, and I would have been honored to call that game with you, Thrift. But unfortunately, because it did rain most of the day, they were able to get 2 games in. They were more concerned about the field conditions, even though when we got there, it stopped raining. But because they were supposed to play 2 games on Saturday, which, by the way, they didn't even play those games. That's how bad the field conditions were, and it rained again on Saturday. So they played a total of 6 games today. 2 of the games were at Tatnall Square Academy, and by the way, Flint River did lose to Robert Toombs, and it was a very close game. And Brookstone, what can you say? First time in 43 years,
Unreal.
We got the privilege of seeing the Brookstone Cougars at least 5 times on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. They were fantastic. They were fantastic all year.
Yeah, and Richard, I had the pleasure of at least calling one of those games to the state championship. I was going to do game 2. They canceled it, moved it, and if they did it late Saturday night, I was going to do it. They actually moved it to today at 4:00, and I just couldn't swing that one. So it was a shame that we didn't get to call it, but it was awesome that Coach Greg Mathis, who seems like a lot of people around this area, they think this guy's an awesome guy, and he's done a great job in just 2 years in this Brooksville program, and they're going to be just as good next year too. They return a majority of their players. Richard, I know they lose Taft Middleton, but that team is young, talented, and got a lot of people on the JV and middle school team that Coach Mathis is excited about. All right, let's go ahead and get our next guest on. We've had him waiting quite long enough, and he is a good friend of ours, a great friend of the show, and allowing us to broadcast his games. Richard, are we going to pull up? Oh, there you go. I'm just wondering if Coach was going to pull up. I didn't know if I needed to continue introing him.
I was waiting for you to introduce him.
Okay, but I thought, he can bring him on screen as I'm finishing. I was already halfway through it. Anyway, 6 straight.
That's the life of a producer.
State champion, coach, and athletic director of the Calvary Christian Knights, Steve Smith. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Coach, let's talk about it. It was a little over a week ago when we were up in Alpharetta, Georgia, calling that state championship game. Now that you've had about a week to digest it, and, I thought about it too, Coach, and a lot of things that you said in that final interview after the state championship game. I know it's right after your emotions are running high. Got a lot of thoughts in your head, but it was a great interview. And you made mention you felt like you had to coach harder this year than you've had in the last several seasons. Looking back on it now, was this one of the harder seasons that you've had as a head coach of Calvary, especially during this state championship run?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, throughout the last 11 years, we've had some seasons that have been challenging for, a variety of reasons. But for us this year, really, we struggled. We've talked about it several times this year that I've been on with you guys, just talking around just the consistency and trying to, get to a point where offensively we kind of found our identity. And we kind of really struggled halfway through the season. We've talked about just some of the reasons as to why that might have happened. And normally, you get to like that back third of the season, you really want to have some things already kind of solidified. I really felt going into the postseason, there were several different moves that I could have made if some things kind of went a different way, either in practice or in some opportunities that guys got, towards the end of the season. But ultimately what we were looking for was just trying to find the right mix offensively, defensively, and then the pitching, just hoping that was going to come around once we got into the postseason. And that's really what we ended up having. We were a little bit more consistent with the pitching. The defense was really, really solid throughout the entire through all 3 rounds. And then offensively, we just did enough for us to be able to win those games. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of buttons that needed to be pushed, and felt like I really had to try to push the right buttons for us this year.
Well, that's why you're a great coach, and that's why, coaches develop talent, and then obviously talent can then take over, and you may not have to coach as hard, but then that's still in there in you if you need to, and you felt like you had to this year, obviously overcoming a lot with injuries and everything else. But let's talk about the playoff run, and in particular that Kings Academy. Coach, going into that, I'm going to be honest with you, I still was nervous. I thought y'all had a chance, but then being up there in that atmosphere, they have a lot of momentum. They would love nothing more than to beat you before both of y'all head to the GIAA next year. But I thought that game 1, you set the tone, and then the unbelievable pitching performance in game 2. Talk about your guys and what that meant to go up to Kings Academy in their city and winning a state championship.
Yeah, I mean, it was big. I mean, I'll be honest, kind of halfway through the season, I had been kind of keeping an eye on them. And at one point they were undefeated. They were at a similar place with us. We were 13-1 in our first 14 games. And they were, pretty much right around the same thing, just in terms of, starting off real hot. But I mean, going into that series, they're 25-2. I think they had won maybe 10, 11 games in a row. Very similar in kind of how their first round went to how our first round went, where they just kind of walked through it a little bit. And then going into the second round, they had some close ball games, but they found a way to win both of those games. So we knew what we were going up against. We had talked a couple weeks ago just around some of the pieces that they had. They were very, very senior heavy with 12 seniors on that team. And most of those guys, of the 12 seniors, most of those guys had been a part of their last 2 state championship runs. You just know that when those teams are kind of coming in there, they know what it feels like the last couple of years to get bounced out of the postseason right at the end. They made a couple of really key additions to their roster this past year. And those guys ended up being huge contributors for them all season long. So knowing all that, knowing we were going on the road, knowing, just again, that we have met up with them in the last 3 years, and us not necessarily playing the same way we have over the last few years, I knew we were going to have to be really, really good for us to be able to come out of that series.
Richard?
Coach, you had a playoff run on the road this time, just the way the seeding was, but that really didn't falter the team. I mean, you got able to take care of business against Rock Springs, and then going up to Milton High School and getting the convincing win in game 1. And then Carson Ward pitched just an incredible game. It was 1-0. When you're in a game like that, where it's that close, there's no margin for error. What's going through your mind as a coach? And you got to get this game because you don't want to have to play a third and decisive game because anything can happen in a game 3.
Yeah. And I'll kind of correct you just a little bit. That first game, that was a pretty close game up until the 7th. I think we put up 3 or 4 in the 7th inning. It was a 1-1 ball game that, and to be honest with you, they had traffic throughout the entire game, so they had several times where just, one thing going their way and we're looking up and, we're actually down in that first game, with our number 1 on the mound. Bailey, what I was really proud of with him was he just grinded through that game. He really had not thrown over 100 pitches all season long. And he told me the night before, Coach, I've got 120. I'm giving you all 120, whether that's all in game 1 or I'm coming back in relief, but I'm going to give you everything I've got tomorrow. And so, it took him 120 pitches. He's never had that 120 pitches through 5 innings. Felt like he got squeezed a little bit at times, had some key situations where, thought he executed the pitch. They weren't biting and he didn't get the call. And just put some more pressure on him. But him being able to get out of several of those innings where he had a jam, was really big on him. And really, I had, I think, 2 mound visits with him, and both times he was just extremely composed. Sometimes he can get a little amped up, but he was just extremely composed the entire time and just said, I'm going to get out of this. At one point, we had bases loaded, no outs. I went out there and he said, I'm getting out of this jam, not another run and scoring. And that's exactly what he did. But game 1 at the end of it, offensively, we did some things. We put some pressure on him. We put on a couple double steals. We executed a bunt. We executed a bunt steal and just put some pressure on him. And, and ultimately we're able to scratch across a couple runs. Game 2, Ward, I think he hit the first batter. I think he hits the first batter. I think it's 0-2 and hits the first batter. But then after that, I mean, he was pretty solid early on, but he got better as we went on, and then bases loaded in the 4th. And he strikes out their hitter that actually had just the previous pitch had hit a ball, probably 350 foul, and then came back and struck him out on the next pitch. So, he ended up giving us 6 scoreless, and being able to get that out of a guy that knows it's his last game in high school. And it's an elimination state championship game. You can't have any more pressure on you, at least at the high school level, than that. And I thought he responded extremely well. Same thing with him. He's kind of a high heartbeat guy at times, but I thought he did a really good job of just kind of managing the tempo throughout the entire game.
Coach, it was an honor to be able to be on that call. 6 straight state championships. Jonathan Carastori, a legend, and I completely agree with him what you're doing there, Coach, and I think it's going to translate to the next level. Again, we'll get into the GIAA move when we do our sitting down with you later this summer. But talking about these seniors, you made mention of Carson Ward. You talked about Bailey Thorne, Joel Cordero, and Noah Strickland. These 4 guys gave you everything these last 4 years, Coach. They go out with winning a state championship every year during their high school career. Talk about what those guys have meant to you. And I think, what is this? How many classes in a row is this where they won a state championship every year of their high school career? Is this 2 in a row or 3?
Be 3, right? Because the only one would have been the COVID season, where the freshman class the year before that, they won. That was Jesse Donahoe and my son and Caden Shira, that Matthew Pierce, that group. They won as freshmen, didn't get an opportunity their sophomore year, and then won it their junior and senior year.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Talk about what those 4 seniors though meant to you this year. I know you were pretty caught up in the moment, but I know those guys meant a lot to you, and talk about what they meant to your program.
Yeah, I mean, we have 15 seniors, and those 4 that you just mentioned, those are the guys that, for the most part, were out on the field just about all the time. Case Charles is another one, another senior that pretty much didn't come out, for the majority of the season. But we had a lot of guys that contributed in different ways throughout the entire season. Isaac Giamona ends up having a pinch hit walk-off triple. We had Griffin Barbary that threw a lot of really good innings for us this year, and Drew Seville that turned into one of our most reliable relievers. Jacob Scoggins and Elijah Davis, Hayden Bearfield. We had a lot of guys, Levi Carroll, Peyton Morrison. Peyton was a guy that really helped us out this year defensively. So all those guys, and I'm probably leaving someone off since we've got 15 of them, but all those guys, they contributed in some form or fashion throughout the entire year. Even guys like a Mason Cox, who has had, some physical ailments for the last 5 years and hasn't necessarily been able to contribute on the field the way that he wanted to, is just an incredible teammate, incredible selfless guy. So this group was really special in that sense. But those 4 guys that you mentioned, Noah was not even a starter at the start of the season. We go into the first 2 games of the year. Unreal. We beat Lee Scott 9-8 in extra innings and then lose to Pacelli. I happened to throw Noah in relief. He did well and had 2 at-bats in that game, and I really liked what I saw, something that we had been really trying to work on in our inner squads, and he never came out after that. He literally went in a pinch hit role, and then for the rest of the season, he ends up being all-state. Bailey being, what he did these past 2 years with 30 home runs between his junior and senior year is just absolutely incredible. There's very few people in the country that can claim that they had 30 home runs between their junior and senior season. Joel just kind of being an anchor behind the plate for us the last couple of years. So I mean, those guys just really, really big contributors for us the last couple of years. And then obviously Carson Ward being a guy that, really, to be honest with you, we weren't really sure what to expect from him this year. He was a relief pitcher in the past. We really liked what we saw in the offseason in the inter squads, and we wanted to start stretching him out. We go into inter squads, we stretch him out to 2, stretch him out to 3. And, I'm telling him, hey, I really think we got something here. I think this is going to be someone that's going to be able to be a starter for us. Well, he ended up leading our team in innings pitched, strikeouts, and basically took the ball every single time out. He had no injuries this year, didn't have to shut him down for anything, just every single time. Even sometimes where he was on 3 days rest, he would come to me and say, Coach, I know we're struggling a little bit right now with pitching. Do you need me to throw? I mean, just a guy that just said, give me the ball anytime that I needed him to. He would take it. So it was that kind of mentality from these guys. Like I said, I was frustrated. They know I was frustrated. We talked about going about 500 for a good portion of the season, which we had not really had in the last 11 years, just not playing consistent. But at the end of the season, what you want to be doing is playing the best possible baseball and having guys play for each other. Championship teams, and when I say championship teams, not necessarily winning the last game of the year, but championship teams, they find a way to play for each other.
Coach, also as the athletic director, you get an opportunity to host a very special day. This Wednesday on your campus is signing day, and 2 of your players
That's awesome.
Griffin Barbary and Bailey Thorne are signing their letter of intent. Bailey Thorne's going to go play at Gulf Coast State College in Panama City. Griffin Barbary is going to go play at Andrew College. And also Lily Miller. We called a lot of games for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Outstanding basketball player for Coach Norton. And the Lady Knights is going to Middle Georgia State University. So congratulations to all the student athletes. I know that's going to be exciting for the Calvary campus to have signing day on Wednesday.
Yeah, we had a signing day earlier on this year where we had some basketball, football, some track players, and a softball player that all signed. We did that earlier on in the year. These are kind of some of our guys that wanted to wait a little bit later. We were hoping to have a few more. We're going to end up having a couple more that are going to sign, but we needed to get these three. Moving. So Lily, obviously, been a varsity player for the last 5 years, 1,000-point scorer, has been a contributor for the girls basketball team, and has really had a lot of success. We're excited about her getting the opportunity to Middle Georgia. Obviously, Bailey, made the decision early on that he wanted to go to Gulf Coast. Felt like that was probably the best setup for him to be able to realize his ultimate dream of being able to be a guy that gets drafted. So he's going to get an opportunity there. And then Griffin Barbary going to Andrew College and get an opportunity to pitch for them over the next 2 years as well. So we're excited about those three. We'll do the signing day, and then we will likely end up having another signing day. Carson Ward's in talks with about 3 or 4 schools right now. Joel Cordero had another conversation today with a school, and then we're also hoping for Case Charles to get an opportunity as well. We've had a couple other that have gotten some offers, have decided to just move on and just start working towards their career. But anytime you get an opportunity where a kid gets a chance to realize the next step of their dream and their goals, is always a big deal for them, for the school, and obviously for their program.
It's a big deal, too, to win 6 straight state championships, and that is what Coach Steve Smith and his Calvary Christian program has done. Coach, a couple more questions, one of them being directed towards your coaching staff, the parents, everyone that helped make games possible this year, all the volunteers. I did the same thing for Coach Fanning. I'm going to do it for Coach Mathis. I mean, everyone that makes a game day possible, including your staff, especially them. But any thank yous you want to give for incredible season, winning another state championship?
Yeah, I mean, I say this every single year. We do a couple parent meetings in the fall, and I always just make it a point to really emphasize that any successful program, you can't do it well without the volunteers and the supporters and people that are willing to back everything that you're doing. Our coaching staff has been phenomenal. Again, the last 2 years, really the last 2 seasons, I've had my role has completely changed in terms of the hours that I'm able to kind of pour into what we're doing in our off season at times. So I have to heavily rely on our coaching staff. They just do a phenomenal job. Obviously, Scott Donahoe, has been with me for 9 years. Brad Morrison, I think, has been with me now for would have been his 6th year. Scott Scoggins and Tyler Hostillo, each of them have been with me for 3. This might be their 4th year. And then our middle school staff, Trepania, actually at the end of the season, we pulled him up. So at the end of the season, him and Peyton Holloway, 2 guys that that helped coach with the middle school staff, and Renee Rubio, we pulled those guys up. They jumped in our practice, had Trepania and Peyton throw live to our hitters, just trying to let them see some upper level arms that are just coming out of college baseball. So all of those guys, man, that group, they do a great job of supporting me. They do a great job of loving on our kids and really pushing them to be their best. And then our parents are phenomenal. Whenever we have something that we're trying to really do that's going to benefit our program, they always jump right in. We've got a baseball committee that helps to organize everything. So they handle all the concessions and volunteering for gate and work days and meals on the road and spring break trips and all that. And they just do a phenomenal job with all of that, organizing our fundraising. So, I mean, there's just a lot of components that it goes into the full outlook of a program, and you can't do it with all those people. And then obviously from an administrative side, our headmaster, our principal have been huge supporters of us, both our middle school and our high school principal. And then our headmaster, Jim Cohn. They've just done a really good job of supporting the baseball program, supporting Calvary athletics as a whole, and just giving us everything that we need to make sure that we'd be successful. So I appreciate all of them.
No doubt, Coach. And final question, this in terms of where they rank, I don't want you don't have to rank them 1 through 6, but just this team in particular, and especially this win against the Kings Academy, I think probably the toughest opponent you've had to face in a state championship. And you said in the last few seasons, is it pretty sweet at the end of this year to go through all those trials and tribulations to still end up being state champions and end your Gaps run on a 32-game winning streak?
Yeah, I mean it's a good way to go out, right? It's a good way to leave. The league. Really, and not to brag about it, but I mean it's unparalleled success inside that league in any sport.
Yep.
And so that's an accomplishment. I'm proud of our guys and everything that they've done. As far as where it ranks, I won't. The boys try to get me to always rank. Hey, which is the best team? Am I one of the best team? I have guys every once in a while they come in, and this year they went through an exercise and they're like, we're going to make a Calvary all-time baseball team and kind of put guys at different positions, and they always want to get my take on it. I always give the nod to the guys that have been gone for a couple of years, just to kind of keep them hungry a little bit. But
right.
This one's special for a couple reasons, the struggles we went through. But then also, we really had to work hard for it. It's not the toughest team that we've played in a championship run, but I would say it's the toughest team that we played based on where we were at as well,
right.
In our championship run. So it's there were other years where we didn't win it, and we got beat by teams that were not better than us. And it's one of those things where you want to be tested. You really want to see what your team is made of. And this run was exciting to be able to play a team that I have a lot of respect for just with how they've done it. They've been there 3 years in a row and just haven't quite gotten over that hump. But to be able to face off against them one last time at their place, I thought our guys just did a tremendous job of competing in those 2 games.
No doubt about it. We love that we got to be a part of it. Glad that it's on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and I'll never go anywhere. Thank you so much, Coach. Enjoy these next couple of weeks, I guess, of summertime, because it's a full-time job being an AD, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Always appreciate everything you do, and congrats to Coach Mathis and Brookstone. Really happy for them.
Man, you, Tim, Greg, AJ Kehoe made it. I mean, you can even count Tony Rasmus of Lakeside. That's a lot of great baseball teams around this area, Coach. I put up this Tri-City area against anywhere in the country.
I thought you guys did a really good job featuring Tony last week. I thought that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
Just with what he's been able to do, I'm really happy for him as well.
Appreciate you saying that, Coach. Thank you so much. Have a good night, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
that is
Coach.
Coach Steve Smith, athletic director of Calvary, good friend of mine, and always love talking with this guy. All right, Richard, let's take a break. When we come back, who do you have winning the NBA Finals? Richard has someone you may not think anybody would pick, but he may have. All right, here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox. Discounted up to $6,500 off. Chevy's full-size pickup truck, the powerful Chevy Silverado, is up to $12,000 off. And big Chevy Silverado 2500 HDs are discounted up to $6,000 off. Plus, enjoy no payments until fall. Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika.
Get ready to smile.
We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC in Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. As always, it's Richard, it's Thrift, Richie Rich. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves locking down Jokic and Murray, who I thought played one of the best games between your two best players combined. Both had 69 points. Jokic was 35, 19, and 8. You had Jamal Murray with 34. I know he struggled there in the second half, or maybe, never mind, excuse me. Jokic had 34, 19, and 8. Murray had 35, but the defense from Minnesota just locked down. Karl Anthony Towns kept them in it. Jaden McDaniels hit timely shots, and the defense just smothered and wore down Jokic. I know he got his points, but he had to work for it, and he didn't hit any threes because of how tired he was. Richard, what'd you learn from that Timberwolves and Nuggets series? Because I think that was the battle of the two best teams left in the playoffs.
Absolutely shocked. The home team, Game 7, the defending NBA champions, had a 20-point lead, and Minnesota came all the way back. That was a textbook defensive performance by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Nuggets lost this game because nobody else showed up besides Jokic and Murray, because they averaged 69 points together. They only got 5 points from their bench. Michael Porter Jr. was 3 of 12 and only had 7 points. If you're going to win a championship, if you're going to close out in a Game 7, doesn't matter if you're on your home court or not, somebody else besides your two best players have to step up. They didn't get it done. It was balanced scoring from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jaden McDaniels, who's a defensive specialist, was great with 23 points. Your veteran high IQ point guard, Mike Conley, with 10 points, but he really was that floor general that led the offense. And Anthony Edwards, who had a very slow first half, had a huge steal on Jamal Murray that led to a basket. And even though Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert got into foul trouble, they did their job. Every time Jokic touched the ball, it seemed like they doubled him, forcing turnovers. And what a performance by the Minnesota Timberwolves, advancing to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2004.
Unbelievable.
And I called it. I said the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to win the NBA title. I'm sticking with that pick. And by the way, Thrift, there's no more dynasties in the NBA. This is going to be the 6th champion in the last 6 years. Unbelievable.
Unreal. We haven't seen it since Golden State. I thought it was Minnesota was going to win and maybe sweep when they were up 2-0. They lose 3 of 2 and 3 of them in a row, and they go down 3-2, excuse me. And I said, this is the heart of a champion. This is why I'm never going to doubt Jokic. They took him to the woodshed in Game 6. I don't know what that was. Murray was terrible. I knew he was going to come out on fire in Game 7, but Michael Porter Jr., trash, 7 points. Aaron Gordon, trash, 4 points. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope couldn't hit any shots. So it was literally nobody for the Nuggets. That's where that Bruce Brown, he would have came in and gave you another 10 to 15, I think. Kind of like what you saw with Jaden McDaniels on the other side, or Naz Reid from Minnesota. That would have been Bruce Brown, and Denver would have won just like they did last year. And it shows you why you need depth more than anything. You can't just have a bunch of superstars and no depth. Depth with a really great, phenomenal player can win you a championship. And that's what you're seeing with Minnesota. They got good depth. They have Anthony Edwards, who is an incredible leader. He was 6 of 24. I said this on the Sports Vision radio show today with DJ Jones. It reminded me of Kobe Bryant back in the Boston Celtics Game 7 of the NBA Finals in that 2010 year. And Kobe with 6 of 24, trash. People were like, he's terrible. He can't hit shots. He can't never live up the mic. He's not LeBron. LeBron's overthrown him. This is going to sink his legacy. But he affected the game more than just shooting. His shot wasn't on. He found his teammates in Gasol and Artest in the biggest moments of the game. He also rebounded, had 15 rebounds, 6-7 assists, couple steals, guarded Rajon Rondo and Ray Allen. He was the best player on the court, even though he didn't score. And that's what we saw with Anthony Edwards. Even though he didn't score, ripping Jamal Murray, hitting the timely 3, the guy showed why he is ballsy, Richard. And I'll say this too. The fact that he called out Glenn Taylor, where you at? I don't know if you saw that meme. It had me laughing. He He is that guy. He's the real deal. And the thing is, though, Kobe was 30, 31 when he was able to, differentiate. You know what? I'm not going to take 40 shots. My shot's not on. Let me find something else. Let me drive to the basket. Let me hit free throws. Anthony Edwards is only 22 realizing this and how to get out of double teams. I was impressed. Karl Anthony Towns, I've been a hater of him. I've thought he doesn't play great defense. He makes bonehead mistakes, always in foul trouble in the biggest moments. And today he proved a lot of people wrong. He carried the Timberwolves all the way there until they started making that run in the third quarter. If there was no Karl Anthony Towns, they may have been down 30 points, and I don't think they wouldn't have been able to come back from that, even though they did come back from 20. And Naz Reid, I mean, this team was built to beat Jokic. 3 phenomenal guys, Towns, Gobert, and Reid, all did a great job guarding him. And you're like, well, Thrift, he scored 34. He had to work for the 34. He turned the ball over. And the Timberwolves now, I think, are the favorite to win it all. Richard, I thought you were going to pick the Pacers. I was trying to tease everyone that that's who you were going to pick. The Indiana Pacers after they beat the Knicks, who I don't think it's an upset. They have nobody. Anunoby, gone. 5 minutes in. Jalen Brunson, gone. Third quarter. Josh Hart, shell of himself because he was overworked. No Mitchell Robinson, no Randall. Team fully healthy. I think New York Knicks are the second best team in the East, and I think they would have took the Celtics to 6 or 7. And I think as good as a coach in defensive mind as he is, Richard, he obviously struggles at keeping his team healthy. Tom Thibodeau has just wore his team down. This was going to be a year I think the Knicks could have taken advantage of, Butler being hurt, Embiid being hurt, Giannis being hurt, and yet they get hurt. And that makes me think now, it doesn't matter if Boston sweeps the Pacers. I'm still picking Dallas or Minnesota to beat them because of the teams they've had to play. The Cavs would have been in the playing game, wouldn't even have made it in the Western Conference playoffs this year, I think. The Heat didn't even have Jimmy Butler. Again, a team that wouldn't even made the playoffs in the Western Conference. And the Pacers, are you kidding me, Richard? I'd name you 6 teams I'll take over them, maybe more. Honestly, maybe the Kings are the only team I wouldn't take over the Pacers that were in the Western Conference. And that's if they're fully healthy and the Pelicans are fully healthy. I'm probably taking both of them. But without them being healthy, I'm probably not. But I just don't think Boston's going to have that fortitude to be able to overcome what is going to be thrown at them, especially if it's Minnesota. Let's start with the Western Conference. I love this matchup, Richard. Ant versus Kyrie, Luka versus Jaden McDaniels, Karl Anthony Towns. And the thing with Dallas, they got bodies, Gafford and Lively, that they can throw at Reed and Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. They got 2 phenomenal guards. And if they're thinking about putting Mike Conley, where are they going to guard? He's going to guard Derek Jones. Derek Jones is much bigger than him, can shoot over him. He dang sure can't guard Luka Doncic. So where's the mismatch going to come for Dallas? I'm ready for it. I think it's going 6 or 7. I am going Minnesota because they are their home team. But I would not be surprised if we get another Nuggets-Timberwolves with this Timberwolves-Mavericks series.
I think this is going to be an incredible series, but I'm going with my pick, Minnesota in 7. Remember the home court, because they were the number 3 seed. Dallas is the number 5 seed. Minnesota will get home court back. So games 1 and 2 will be in Minnesota. I do feel that Dallas got a little bit of a break beating OKC. Oklahoma City was a very young team. Yes, they were a number 1 overall seed, but Dallas just got a lot of breaks just because I just don't think that OKC was in the right situation for that game 6. I thought we were going to have a game 7 tonight, and OKC ends up blowing a 17-point lead, and Dallas ends up coming back. I mean, Kyrie is comfortable. Remember the last 2 teams he was in, it didn't work out. He tried the big 3 with KD and James Harden in Brooklyn, or it didn't even work out in Boston. Kyrie has the most championship pedigree with the ring with Cleveland in 2016. But I love that matchup, Anthony Edwards guarding Kyrie. I think that Anthony Edwards can shut down Kyrie Irving. I don't think anybody's stopping Luka.
Well, Kyrie's been struggling too, but I'm with you. No one's going to stop Luka, but Kyrie was not playing great basketball the last 3 or 4 games. The last 2 or 3 games of that Thunder series. So if he is not up to his full potential, yeah, I agree with you. Anthony Edwards will slow him, maybe shut him down. I don't think he could shut him down if he's, fully healthy, but we'll see. So you're going Timberwolves, and I'm going Timberwolves. And you think it's going to be close, or you think it's going to go 4 or 5, maybe a sweep for 5?
I think it's going to go 7. I think the Timberwolves do a win in 7. A player to watch out for Dallas, PJ Washington. What an acquisition at the trade deadline. He has been the X factor for Dallas. He's been clutch. He's been putting up big numbers. This is going to be one of the most.
That's another body that you can throw at Minnesota. That's what I'm saying. Dallas has the size to match up with Minnesota. The Thunder didn't. And now they got the guard to go with Anthony Edwards. I'm telling you, these two teams are way more evenly matched than you think, man. I'm telling you.
That's why it's going to go 7 games. I just think Minnesota at home in a game 7, they should be able to pull it off and reach the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history.
All right, let's talk about the Eastern Conference. I think it goes 5. You know what? Maybe 6. Just because I know the Celtics, they're going to do one bonehead, and I think it may be game 2. I think they'll win game 3, go up 2-1, and either they're going to win games 4 and 5 and win in 5, 4-1, or they'll lose game 4 and lose and win in 6. So I think it's either 5 or 6. I don't see sweep because I do think the Pacers can get hot enough, and you saw how efficient. I mean, they're good at home. I think 6 is a possibility. Not as intrigued as I am with the Western Conference with that one, but it still should be a lot of fun. Pacers can score, but I'm thinking we're heading for a Celtics Timberwolves. You talk about bodies, wing, defense. Just, man, that is going to be a dogfight. Tatum and Edwards, Brown and McDaniels. You got Porzingis and Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, woo! Cannot wait for that matchup if that is the NBA Finals, Richard. Tune me in for all those games. But what do you got for the Eastern Conference?
Well, first of all, I want to start off with the Boston Celtics. All the pressure is on them not only to reach the NBA Finals, but to win. This Tatum-Brown tandem has been together for 8 years. Celtics fans are anxious. They are wondering, when are they going to win a championship with this duo? Do they need to break up this team? I do feel that Kristaps Porzingis should be back for game 3. You got your high IQ veteran Al Horford. You got Derek White, who hits big shots. You got Pritchard coming off the bench. I think that the Boston Celtics should win it. I'm going to say in 6 because I think that Indiana wins games 3 and 4 in Indiana. It goes 2-2 back to Boston. And I think the Boston Celtics end up closing it out in a game 6 against Indiana on the road. And it's going to be Boston and Minnesota in the NBA Finals. I know my original pick was Boston and Denver. And then I said that Minnesota was going to win the NBA title. But, man, Indiana is just playing with house money. The number 6 seed, are you kidding me? Able to knock off Milwaukee. Giannis got hurt. And then they end up knocking off the Knicks in a game 7 at the Garden. But Jalen Brunson ends up getting hurt. They had OG Anunoby, who was hobbled. Mitchell Robinson hurt. Julius Randle. And so the Pacers are lucky to be here. I mean, this is not one of the best Pacers teams from the past. We're not talking about 2000.
And they don't even have a full roster. They don't even have Benedict Mathurin either.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be disgusted if it's Boston versus Dallas either. I mean, I think that would be a great matchup and be cool to see Kyrie or Luka winning a championship. Either way, there's going to be a team that's either winning their first one since 2008 or the 3 other teams are first one since 2011. Forgot Dallas has one, and the Pacers and the Timberwolves winning their first. So looking forward to these conference finals. Starts tomorrow. We're going to have on Steve Holman tomorrow to talk NBA playoffs. We're going to talk with state champion winning coach Greg Mathis from Brookstone. So make sure to tune in tomorrow night, doing another live show. Make sure to tune in the Sports Vision radio show this Thursday. We also had a great guest. We talked Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, all your favorite teams with elite analysts that follow the team and cover the team better than anyone. Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, Jordan D. Hill of Dogs 247, and 247 Sports, and Mike G of the War Report. It was just a great show today. Go back and watch on Facebook, and another good one on Thursday. So we're excited. Thank you to Glenn Smith last week. Had a fun time there, Richard, there at Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. And again, I don't want to go into too much more detail because again, we're going to talk with Steve Holman here in just a little bit. And I will say I talked two things. One, we talked Caitlin Clark. For the love of God, if I hear one more person say that the defenders of the WNBA shouldn't guard her as hard so people can watch her score 30 points, you've never competed in anything possible if you make that kind of statement. That's dumb. I would never ask a competitor, hey, take it easy on Caitlin so it can keep the ratings up. They should want to tune in. The purpose of Caitlin Clark was to draw people's eyes to the league and realize this league has a ton of Caitlin Clarks. It's not just only about Caitlin Clark. So please, for everyone's sake, stop saying that. Stop. I'm tired of it. She is going to be locked down. She's a rookie, Rich. What do you expect? You expect her to dominate? What? What rookie have you expected to come in the league, win MVP in a championship in his first season and put up 30 a game? Michael Jordan really could do it. Yeah, but I'm talking in the NBA or WNBA. You're right. Candace Parker would have came up close. But here's the thing with Candace Parker. She's 6'5", Richard, and a way bigger athlete and better athlete than Caitlin Clark is. Sorry to say this. Caitlin Clark's going to take some time. Shooters take time to adapt. Look at J.J. Redick. He dominated the college game, put up 26 a game at Duke. Guess what? Took him 4 or 5 years to even get a starting role, maybe more than that. So please, everybody take a deep breath and let Caitlin Clark live. They're going to struggle. Indiana won 3 games last year, 2 games. And she's going to translate for them to win 9 games this year. I'm sorry she doesn't translate to 27. She is not that type of player. But she can eventually become an elite player. We saw it from Sue Bird. Diana Taurasi. I think she's up there with them during her college game, but none of them dominated the WNBA till later in their career, not their rookie season. Let's be better, America. Let's be better. Richard?
I do have one thought I want to bring up. Scotty Scheffler getting arrested on Friday. That was probably the craziest, most bizarre sports story that I have ever heard. And these security guards or police officers that have these major events, they need to know who faces are with the name. This is the number 1 golfer in the world, and you don't even recognize him. And golfers are supposed to pass. Unfortunately, it was a tragic event that happened. Traffic was backed up.
It's this point, Richard, and then I'll let you finish. Why is anyone on edge for a traffic accident? Why are you so on edge that you're ready to arrest and pull out your gun for a traffic accident? Yes, it was a bad accident. Should that make you on edge to the point where you're fearing your life? You should feel sad, remorseful, want to make sure everybody else is good. And like hopping on the car, I mean, this guy was showtime. It was showtime. He knew who this guy was. In my mind, you can't convince me otherwise. And he wanted to put up a big bust. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted his name in there. It's a joke. Always been a joke. And this is why a lot of law enforcement get the rap they do, Richard, because of this. This is nonsense. Okay? I don't want to make this a political thing, and I'm not going to get to social inequality, social justice, even though I'm a firm believer in it. And I think that police and law enforcement in America has obviously been corrupt and racist. You've seen it towards especially African American and minorities. But in terms of our talk with this, with our show today, and the golfer, you can't make me make sense of this. You really can't. And I'm glad he's getting the officer's getting blasted. And this again, along with the myriad of other things, is why it's hard for law enforcement. They can't get away without shooting themselves in the foot, figuratively speaking.
Absolutely right. It's just, it really took away from a great event.
Do you think he should have jumped on the car, Richard?
No, not at all. But if Scotty Scheffler did move while he was on the car, he could get charged, and that is a felony. And that is like,
yeah, but from what I'm understanding, he jumped on the car while it was moving.
Oh,
it wasn't like it was stopped and then and then he started moving and then jumped on it. It was already moving, and then he jumped on the car. Either way, this was for one, I know the PGA didn't want to deal with this, and they had to.
It was a nightmare.
It is a PR nightmare. It really was. And now everybody's making fun of him. He obviously was pretty upset at the way the police officer handled it, and then putting him in cuffs and just not a good look for Louisville, Kentucky, who is already known for having some questionable, if not questionable, but corrupt law enforcement, especially with the handling of murder cases and so on and so forth. This is what you decide to do to fix your PR image? Arresting a PGA famous golfer and a misunderstanding? You can't make it up, Richard. You can't make it up. And listen, the only thing I can think about when I think about Louisville is everything that happened at that university. And I know it's different. We're talking about the city. But at that University of Louisville that Louisville, Kentucky represents, that is them, is a University of Louisville, Richard, with Rick Pitino, Bobby Petrino, all the escorts, everything that happened during that scandal. Please. It seems like they can't get away from something. There's always something about Louisville, Kentucky. Now they're going to be known for the police department that arrested a guy trying to go around traffic because of a misunderstanding. You saved the planet with that one. Nice job.
This incident really took away from a great tournament. Congratulations to Xander Schauffele.
Yeah.
His first major, shot a -21 as he held off Bryson DeChambeau, who was a -20. I mean,
I just don't think we're ever going to see another Tiger Woods, Richard. Brooks Koepka's got 5. I think he gets another 2 to 3, maybe ends with 8 in his career. But we're not going to see someone, he's the closest thing, dominating. But for a long period of time, that's never going to, I just don't think it's ever going to happen again.
It's never going to happen.
It's not. There's too many good golfers, for one. Schauffele, the golfer that just got arrested, I can't believe I just lost
Scotty
Scheffler, who won his second Masters. They're saying he's the best golfer in the world. There was a minute that Jordan Spieth was going to be the great next coming. He's only got 3. Rory McIlroy had 4 before he was even 25. He's not won one in 10 years. Jason Day was high on it one time. Dustin Johnson. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have been great, and they're excellent. It's maybe the most talented golf field of all time. But, man, nobody moves the needle like Tiger Woods. And I just don't think the interest is ever what it's going to be during that 98 to 2000 or 97 to 2008 run of his dominance. I don't think they're ever going to peak at those ratings. Heck, even if you want to go from 97 to 2019, his last time he won a title, I don't think anyone's going to touch those. But you're right. Congratulations to him, and we'll see what's going to happen with the next 2 majors. Richard, had a fun time today. Want to end the show with Braves fans. Breathe. What's the score right now? They got smashed yesterday. They've lost 3 straight to the Padres, and I know they're doing
just shaky. I mean, they had a doubleheader today.
They did win 3-0. So they go back to 10 games over 500, and that 4-game losing streak's done. You know, Tyler Redmond did say that the Phillies, Richard, have played a much easier schedule, according to him, than the Braves. They've only played 1 team over 500, and that was Atlanta, and they lost that series. They do lead the Braves by 5 games or 20 games above 500, but I think it's going to even out, like he said, because they're going to play a tougher schedule. But even if they do win the division, I don't think that should matter for the Braves. It should matter about, we need Acuna to start to bat better. We need Olsen's bat to wake up. Our pitching's not been the problem. It's been the hitting, even without Strider. But I think the Braves, if you're going to struggle, and right now we're saying 10 games above 500, 614 winning percentage is struggling. This is about what they were on last year when they won 104 games. I think everybody should take a breath. The Braves will be fine. The only reason people are panicking is because Philadelphia has been on the tear they're on, and they're the best team in baseball. But I agree with Tyler. I think by June, mid-July, I think you're going to see a difference in the standings.
Yeah, you're right. The Phillies just have not played the schedule that the Braves have played, and the bats are going to come alive, and we're going to expect the baseball season to balance out between the Phillies and the Braves.
Yeah. Well, Richard, we want to say thank you to everyone, including Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC, for watching. Tomorrow's show, we're going to put up our high school baseball ratings. We're going to talk with Greg Mathis first. We're going to talk with Steve Holman first, and then we're going to end the show with our ratings. Do not go anywhere for that. And then watch out later this week. I'm going to drop a graphic of how many games we broadcasted this year for all the sports, how many views that encompassed over the both platforms we broadcasted on, and just throw out some analytics and some stats for you on what we accomplished in year one and what we're going to try to accomplish in year two for sure. So we want to say thank you for everybody. Like the page, subscribe on YouTube. And Richard, as we always say, get ready to smile.
Ready to smile.
See y'all later, guys. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Night, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.